Good evening,
light
all.
in front, Vidyaji.
Jacob sir, your light also can improve a bit. It'll be nice.
Good evening, all. We are starting our live streaming.
Can you hear me?
Yes, yes.
Hello, Sina. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
No.
Lovely to see everyone. Delighted.
So, dear poets, we are about to start. Please mute your mics. Ready? Live streaming? Ready. You can share the screen, right?
Can you hear me?
Yes, you are audible.
Sina, I can't hear
Yes.
you.
Yes. You are audible, sir. You are audible. Yeah, let's start. Good evening to all. Welcome to Rhyming Nature, International Poetry Festival, organized by Government Polytechnic College, Perindalmanna, in association with National Digital Library Club, GPC, Perindalmanna. We all know the romantic poets often writing about beautiful rural landscapes as a source of joy made nature a popular poetic genre. When writing environmental poems today, contemporary poets tend to write about nature more broadly than their predecessors, focusing more on the negative effects of human activity on the planet. Here, we are attempting to address such issues in a poetic way. We'll begin with a prayer. Over to Shashikumar sir.
ഹൃദയരാഗതന്ത്രിമീട്ടി സ്നേഹഗീതമേകിയും കർമ്മഭൂമി തളിരിടുന്ന വർണ്ണമേകിയും നമ്മിൽ വാഴുമാതിനാമം ഇന്നു വാഴ്ത്തിടാം. ഞങ്ങൾ പാടുമീ സ്വരങ്ങൾ കീർത്തനങ്ങളാകണേ. ചോടുവയ്ക്കുമീ പദങ്ങൾ നൃത്തലോലമാകണേ. കുഞ്ഞു വീടിനുൾത്തളങ്ങൾ സ്വർഗമാകണേ. അമ്മ നൽകും ഉമ്മ പോലും അമൃതമാകണേ. പൂർണ്ണമീ ചരാചരങ്ങൾ ഗുരുവരങ്ങളാകണേ. ഹൃദയരാഗതന്ത്രിമീട്ടി സ്നേഹഗീതമേകിയും കർമ്മഭൂമി തളിരിടുന്ന വർണ്ണമേകിയും. നമ്മിൽ വാഴുമാതിനാമം ഇന്നു വാഴ്ത്തിടാ.
Retreat of the Wordsworthian poet. It's now a pressing political question of survival. Distinct from nature poetry, environmental poetry explores the complicated connections between people and nature. Often written by poets who are concerned about our impact on the natural world, poets today are serving us as witness to climate change while bringing attention to important environmental issues and advocating for preservation and conservation. I'm very fortunate to have a great poet, critic, and editor, Sachidanandan sir, former secretary of our Sahitya Academy. We are very fortunate to have you as an inaugurator. I'm delighted to welcome you, sir. We have Mahalingeshwar sir, the regional secretary of Sahitya Academy. He has joyfully accepted our invitation and he will join soon. He has some meeting, he will join soon. So I'm inviting him to the function. It gives me immense pleasure to welcome our chief guest of honor, Nizar Satawi, poet from Palestine. Welcome to you, sir. I extend my hearty welcome to Chandrakanta ma'am, Deputy Director of SETA, Technical Education. Welcome to you, ma'am. I'm very happy to welcome Shajil Andrusa, Principal of GPC Attingal. And today, the message of our program will be given by Dr. Sajeev. I'm very happy to welcome Dr. Sajeev, Principal Scientist of Kerala Forest Research Department. Then I would like to welcome Mr. Pradeep, our principal, who is always with us as a strong pillar of support. Welcome to you, sir. I welcome Mr. Vinod, Senior Superintendent of GPC, Perentalmanna. I welcome all poets who are joined with us through this platform from different parts of the world. I welcome you all. Since we have to keep up the time, I welcome Pradeep sir to give the presidential address.
Okay.
Over to you, Pradeep sir.
Okay. Thank you, Sina Miss. Very good evening to one and all gathered here. This is the first time our college, Government Polytechnic College, Perindalmanna, under Technical Education Department, Kerala, organizing such an event for the students and public. I appreciate Srimati Sina N, poet, dancer, teacher, and what not she is. Okay. For her initiative to organize this wonderful program on rhyming nature, which is an international poetry. This is an international poetry festival, as we know that. In this occasion, we got eminent poets from around the world. We know the most respected senior poet from Kerala, Sri K. Sachidanandan sir. He is poet, critic, editor, translator. Mr. Nisar Sartavi, poet from Palestine. Maria do Samiro Barroso, poet from Portugal. Mr. Vyacheslav Kuprianov, poet from Russia. Ms. Shafilika Verma, poet from India. Mr. Stephen Bodhan, poet from America. Mr. Agilo Rizzi from Italy. Bisma Upreti from Nepal. Ms. Patmaja Iyengar Padi from India. Ms. Kalina Temerti Kanta from Canada. Mr. P.N. Gopikrishnan from India. Rolf Dopperberg from Switzerland. This program is actually organized by our college with the support of National Digital Library of India. It's a college chapter. It's our college chapter in DL. Here, in this event, we received support and guidance from Dr. T.V. Sajeev sir, scientist KFRI, Srimati Chandrakanta Madam, Deputy Director Sitter, Mr. Shajil Andru sir, Principal GPC Attingen. He is also singing a poet for us. Okay. Our program, Rhyming Nature, is to rejuvenate our nature by approaching the nature in a different way. Think for the next generation. Do for the next generation. Yes, it can be achieved only by doing something by this generation. My thought about the nature is create an equilibrium nature, eco-friendly nature. It can be reached by avoiding plastic, recycling of plastics, and minimizing usage of plastics. We can see that new generation courses are coming for the engineering students, such as environmental related and waste management related. Maybe it can change the world eco-friendly. We know our institution is producing engineers. These young and talented students are getting into the society after their studies and doing constructive changes in the world. The vertical growth of technology immediately influencing in the nature. They have to keep in mind that technology should be implemented by balancing the nature. Students from various colleges participating in this event. Okay, we know our poets have a good role in our society to act as a mentor, motivator, eye opener, and also torchbearer. I am sure that our students will catch something from this event. I had seen a place with a natural nature. That is Lakshadweep. I had spent 10 days with my family. What a beautiful place. We have to keep those places as it is, eco-friendly and human-friendly. Nowadays, we can see that some people simply throw their waste, including plastics, to the nature or to the neighbor's plot or in a public spot. It has to be avoided. But why they are throwing? There is no alternative method to dispose these or decompose these waste material. We have to find out a solution for that. I think our students and staff can change this mindset of people and find a solution for these people or find a solution for this problem. Finally, I assure that this event will get into our head to make all of us vibrant, to do creatively and innovatively for a rhyming nature. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Now I would like to invite Dr. Sajeev from Kerala Forest Research Department Over the years, his research interest has crossed over to landscape ecology, biological invasions, chemical ecology, soundscapes ecology, and insect conservation. He is the apt person to talk about the message of the event, and he will give you a proper introduction to our function. Welcome to you, sir. Over to you.
Thank you, Sina. Nice to see poets from across the globe gathered over here. And special hello to Professor Sachidanandan, our local pride in the arena of literature. Uh, uh, I'm the odd man out. Uh, I'm the maybe one of the very few non-poets in this platform right now. I'm just a scientist. I study butterflies, moths, dragonflies, mostly in the forests of Western Ghats. Now, we scientists look at you poets with a lot of envy. Scientists are really envious about poets, basically because of the fact that before we invent anything, before we discover something, you would have already done it. Like, for example, the aeroplane. Before we scientists invented aeroplane, the poets would have already flown it across landscapes and done many things with that. Even when we have not yet standardized a methodology for isolating DNA from long dead specimens, you writers would already isolate the DNA. You make the dinosaurs out of it. You write novels about it. You make films out of it. Even before we had invented the technology for mapping big landscapes, one among you, named Kalidasa, would have already described the entire geography of a big landscape in either Kumarasabham or Meka Sandesham. So you poets run very fast, very forward, very much in front of we scientists. So just because of that, we scientists look at your work, your poems, the literature which you create with a lot of creativity, with a lot of envy, and also as something which reflects not just the contemporary times, but also the future. So that is something very important. We look at you as people who are predicting the future. So that's the first thing which I would like to tell you. And the second thing is that in earlier days, we used to classify poems into two categories. One is when you start writing a poem, either you look inside, you look inside yourself, you look at emotions, you look at feelings, you think of expressing something from within. That is one way. Or you look outside, you look at the society, you look at what is happening around, and you precipitate it into your poems. Later on, we understood that it is not just two different categories, but it is a continuum. It starts from one place, like inside, and goes out and comes back. So poetry has broken that barrier. Now, this brings us to the contemporary times where things are changing extremely fast. We scientists understand that the situations around are becoming more and more unpredictable. I live in Kerala, where we had very clear-cut demarcation across our rainy period and the non-rainy period. We have two monsoons, the southwest and the northeast. And my school days, the southwest monsoon used to start exactly on the date of school reopening. We all used to get wet when we go to school after our summer vacations. Now that pattern is gone. We are unable to predict when the monsoon is going to start. And we are also unable to distinguish between the two monsoons. We don't know when the southwest is stopping and when the northeast is starting. We have large number of rainy days. And more than that, our changing climate is killing people. We are losing people because of major impacts like landslides, the hurricanes which are coming up. Kerala was such a safe place to live for centuries, but we are moving towards a unsafe situation where the climate is becoming more and more unpredictable. Now, my interest is to see how poets are responding to this unpredictability. How do you link your writing to the changes, the immense changes which are happening? If you recall, COVID-2 is going to be a global thing. Not a single country was spared. And the climate change is also impacting large number of countries. Many of the island nations in the Pacific, they are sinking. Our neighboring country called Maldives, people in Maldives have started buying land in other countries. So it is such an important thing for them. The changing climate is not just killing people; it is also killing countries, landscapes. Now, how do creative people like you respond to that? That is something which I am eagerly waiting for to hear. I'll finish off with a couple of small pieces of poems from a very interesting anthology, which is with me. It is titled Singing in the Dark, uh, subtitled A Global Anthology of Poetry Under Lockdown. When everybody went into lockdown, what poets created were edited and published by K. Sachidanandan and Nishi Chawla. This is a book. I'll just take two small pieces from that to set the tone. The first is a quote, which is in the front of the book, a quote by from Brecht's poem. It reads like this, just 4 lines. In the dark times, will there also be singing? In the dark times, will there also be singing? Yes, there will also be singing about the dark times. Yes, there will also be singing about the dark times. Birth from the poem Motu. I move to another poem titled On This Earth by Professor Sachidanandan. I'm just reading the last part, and you would understand why I chose that at the end of the poem. It reads like this. I want to be reborn on earth, this time as a tree. I want to be reborn on earth, this time as a tree. You will be a bird perched on its bough. You will be a bird perched on its bough. I will recognize you by the blue dust on your wings. I will recognize you by the blue dust on your wings. And you, me with the red dust on my bark. And you, me with the red dust on my bark. This time, we won't quarrel. This time, we won't quarrel. I will extend my fruits for your song. I will exchange my fruits for your song. There won't be humans to see or hear it. There won't be humans to see or hear it. Butterflies, only butterflies. Butterflies, only butterflies. Eagerly waiting for poetry from you. Sorry to take a bit of time to explain the context. So over to you, Seena, and thank you for this big opportunity. Thank you all.
Thank you, sir. With great pride, I welcome Sachidanandan, sir, to inaugurate the function and address the gathering. Sachidanandan is a bilingual poet, critic, playwright, editor, fiction writer, and travel writer. He has 30 collections of poetry in Malayalam, 10 in English, and 35 collections in other languages. Almost all languages, I must say, Arabic, Irish, French, German, Italian, Spanish. And he has received numerous awards from Sahitya Academy, then and especially 5 awards in 5 runners from Kerala Sahitya Academy, besides the topmost award for poetry and total literary contribution from Kerala, Karnataka, Andhra Pradesh, Orissa, and Maharashtra. His selected essays on Indian literature positions was published by Niyogi Books, Delhi in 2020. And a collection of resistance writing, Words Matter, edited and introduced by him, came out from Penguin Random House in 2018. We are very fortunate to have you here. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Sina, for that extremely generous introduction. Dear Sina, Pradeep, Sajeev, my fellow poets, quite a few of whom I know, and some of them I'm meeting for the first time, and other friends who are listening to me. I'm happy to inaugurate this International Poetry Festival, aptly named Rhyming Nature. I assure you I won't make my speech very long because I've written quite a lot on eco-poetics and environment. I'll just confine myself to some of the essential things that ought to be said at a critical time like this, when perhaps the human species itself is at a turning point. Nature, as Sajeev also very well said, has always inspired poetry. Even centuries before Wordsworth and the Romantics, as exemplified by ancient Chinese, Japanese, and Indian poets, particularly from Libo and Basho to Valmiki and Kalidasa. In those ancient times, nature had never been perceived as an alien to be tamed or to be conquered. The human being was but part of it, one among its many creatures. At times, natural forces were worshipped, as exemplified by the pantheism of old texts like the Rig Veda, where the elements are extolled to the level of the divine and named and worshipped as gods. But the relationship between nature and human beings began to change with the rise of competitive colonialism that led to slavery, genocide, and the unscrupulous exploitation of natural resources by avaricious capitalism, stimulated by what Ivan Illich calls industrial ideology, based on the stupid idea of unlimited development on a limited planet with its many non-renewable resources. So that's where the crux lies, this whole idea that an unlimited kind of development is possible on a planet which is limited in several ways, including in the availability of resources. Capitalism unleashed an entropic process that went on exploiting not only fossil fuels like natural gas and petrol, but even metals and minerals without any kind of control. We failed in recognizing the ingenuity gap. Perhaps you know this is the title of a recent book by Thomas Homer Edison about the environmental crisis that we are facing now. So we failed in recognizing that ingenuity gap as we got lost in the complexities of technological growth. Scientific thinking promoted by enlightenment soon turned into a kind of blind scientism that took a kind of positivism, I should say, that took little time to turn into techno-fascism, which aided and continues to aid the growth of political fascism in developed as well as developing countries. The exploiters try to drown all discussions on nature and on environment in the banality of the shallow discussions on television and cyber platforms. But the challenge is so real that Amitav Ghosh, well-known Indian novelist and thinker, recently declared climate change is the most crucial issue of our time. We need an analytical counterbalance to meet the challenge of neoliberal and corporate capitalism, the inequality it creates, and the irretrievable depletion of natural resources and destruction of environment. We need new paradigms to think about the post-carbon, post-capitalist times that also demand a new cognitive mapping. Our alienation from nature is a social, philosophical, and aesthetic issue, and reconnecting and rhyming with nature is not an idle poetic dream, but a condition of the survival of our species on Earth. It is not enough to museumize nature and landscape. Several species of plants and animals are already extinct, as we very well know, and many are on the verge of extinction. And the human species is next in the line, as evidenced by the threats of global warming, environmental pollution, natural calamities, and new epidemics and pandemics like the one that we are experiencing now. We cannot go on with our unsustainable models of development. We need to get out of the thought patterns of Bacon, Descartes, and Adam Smith, the contradictions of aggressive capitalism, and the hubris that puts human being at the center of the universe. We need to accept the fact that we have, unwittingly or not, entered a post-humanist age where we need to coexist with nature to be its masters. We need to learn the right lessons from the destruction of ancient civilizations. Octavio Paz, the great Mexican poet, was right in observing that modernism in art and literature began as a reaction to capitalist modernity, but failed to develop a creative participation as it celebrated the alienation of the individual from nature and from society. We need to overcome the binaries like nature and culture, body and mind, woman, time and space, and re-enchant the world with a holistic approach that interrogates the post-enlightenment belief that man can create culture only by destroying nature. Art is organically linked to nature and derives its raw materials from nature. We need to reinvent the eco-aesthetic principles that illumined ancient Tamil poetics. I'm just taking an example. Ancient Tamil poetics, the Pinai poetics as it is often called, as well as the thinking of luminaries from Buddha to Gandhi. Contemporary intellectuals like Bruno Latour, Donna Haraway, Manuel de Landa, Francisco Fernando, Catherine Hales, and Amitav Ghosh admit that we have to move away from transhumanist schemes that attempt to develop our species into a superhuman ethereal power and retrieve the lost continuity between natural history and human history, unlearning the histories where man is the crown of creation. We need to know nature can exist without us. When a small virus is turning our bodies into mere photocopy machines, of course, this is a beautiful simile used by Slavoj Žižek, the Slovenian thinker. So when a small virus is turning our bodies into mere photocopy machines, we need to see it as a warning and redefine our ethics. I believe writers, especially poets, who are prophets by definition, have a major role to play in sensitizing the people to the impending ecological disasters, a role that had earlier been played by philosophers from Buddha and Mahavira, Kabir and Basava, Socrates and Jesus Christ, to Karl Marx and Gandhi. Let this festival of poetry herald a mission to regreen the earth and re-establish the almost lost links between human beings and nature. My best wishes to the festival and to the poets. I shall read 2 or 3 poems to complement this brief talk, and with that I will not disappear. I'll be here. Of course, I'll listen to you, most of you. Of course, Sajeev had already read part of one of my poems, On This Earth. an anthology edited by me with Nishi Chawla, Singing the Earth, published by Penguin recently. I'll read maybe one or two other poems. The Enchantress is actually a homage to my mother, while it is also a homage in some sense to the kind of connections that existed between perhaps our mothers and nature, even more than our fathers and nature. The Enchantress. My mother was an enchantress. My daughter has seen her dance with cats at night. House geckos used to respond to her call. With her index finger, she maneuvered the movements of spiders at home, leg by leg. A single frown from her, and the cockroaches would open their eyes, their thin legs on the floor or maybe in the air. When they heard her footsteps, rats returned to the laps of the witches who had sent them. She returned to the owl's hoot and the fox's howl. Even sterile cows began lactating as she stroked their backs. Coconut trees bent down to drop their tender fruits into her thin hands. Mango trees burst into blossoms at her touch. Even the plates and ladles at home stood to attention at her command. Ghosts smiled at her like neighbors. She knew by heart the lexicon of ants and grasses. Using different synonyms, she changed the rain's rhythms and the wind's beats. She grazed the clouds, lightning for her whip. Butterflies formed a halo around mother's head. She recognized each crow by what it had been in its previous birth. She found the names of squirrels, reading their lines, summoned them, and taught them Malayalam. Reading the map of her betel's pit, she prophesied father's death on the temple hill. When his clothes came back, she hugged them as if father was still inside them. She prepared meals for guests even before the crows announced their arrival, planted coconut saplings and sowed vegetable seeds for each of her unborn grandchildren. The only thing mother could not predict was the end of her own world. Sitting in that darkness, I recall that world. The barn in the fields and the paddy measure, the winnowing flat and the bamboo mat, songs of the plowmen and the weeding women, the thorny names of the paddy seeds, and my bleeding black roots. And my bleeding black roots. I'll read a short poem. The nation. I don't know, Sina, whether I have the time or the kind of time. The nation of birds. The nation of birds has no borders, nor a constitution. All those who fly are its citizens, including poets. Its flag is the wing. Have you ever heard a cuckoo quarrel with a nightingale over their song? Or a crane driving a crow away for its color? If the owl hoots, it is not because it is jealous of the parrot. Has an ostrich or a penguin ever complained they can't fly? They begin chatting with the sky as soon as they are born. Clouds and rainbows descend to stroke them. At times, they lend their hues to the birds, like the cloud to the doves or the rainbow to the peacock. They dream seated between the sun and the moon. Then the sky fills with angels and stars. They can see even in the dark, chat with elves and fairies. They come down to earth to comfort the grass or to open the flowers with their song. The fruits and worms they eat burst out of their eggs with tiny wings. One day I tried living as a bird. I lost my nationality. Nation is a cage. It feeds you first for your song, and when it begins to dislike your song, for your meat, and when it begins to dislike your song for your meat. I'll end with this poem. History was there before us, only we were not there. We who believe we are witnesses to the objects, plants, and beasts on earth. Why? That they were all created for us, even. But they don't think so. They were the witnesses to our emergence. They blessed us, gave us water and shade, flowers, fruits, milk. In the beginning, we feared them and worshipped. Then we ousted them from history, turned us into our turned them into our slaves and menials. Have you ever had to watch your brothers being axed and sawn into pieces to be sold in the timber market? Or hanging on a hook, bleeding in the meat shop? Our tribe doesn't have much time left. Our own inventions will render us irrelevant. Those who saw our rise will, in total detachment, watch our fall. They will survive to write a new history where the tale of our arrival and departure will be told in just one paragraph, scribbled on brown rocks and green leaves by the liquid fingers of the rain falling from the sapphire clouds, in the secret language of the leaf veins and the tortoise shell, the minute history of the universe, caught by their own meticulous antennae, where only they will feature and their God. Thank you. I know some of these points are very pessimistic, but I look at our situation as a real crisis, and I can't but be pessimistic intellectually, even when I am an optimist by will. For your keen attention. Thank you.
Thank you very much for such an insightful talk. Thank you. Now I would like to invite our guest of honor, Tavi, poet from Palestine. Sir. I remember last year he was here at Kerala to attend our Prime Poetry Festival. We are here through online.
Thank you so much, Sina. Thank you. Respected poets, in the name of Mother Nature, in the name of humanity, love, peace, poetry, I salute you all from Amman, Jordan, where I currently live, being a Palestinian poet. I'm really and truly humbled to be a guest of honor at this great poetry event, bringing us together. And I'll be brief even in my speech and my poem. When poet Sina sent me an invitation to join here, I felt a special happiness in the depth of my heart. India again. India, the country I love so much. And more importantly, India, the people whose company I extremely enjoy. To India, that's becoming for me like a second home. In the past 4 years, I visited India 3 times. In my heart, I have all those wonderful memories of Vijayawada and its great annual poetry meet, where I met Sina, of course, previously organized by my great friend Padmaja. I also keep in my heart the fabulous days in wonderful Kerala and the great international festival organized by Sina in mid-February last year. And I remember that day was the day was my birthday, and everybody uh, joined in celebration. Now, because of the pandemic, we cannot travel to join you. And yet, in spite of the pandemic, we poets still have a big corner in our hearts for togetherness, for unity, and for love. And though we cannot shake hands or hug as we always did, we still can get together virtually. Thanks for this aspect, this little aspect of technology that allows for such virtual meetings. We want to embrace the world. We want to try and stop all those wars, devastating, the malevolent aspect of humanity. But it is sad for us to look around and see our world that is threatened by wars, to see all those destructive factories and chimneys polluting our great mother nature and changing the climate. And as Dr. Schmidt has just pointed out, Dr. Sachi has pointed out, this is a history. There is a history behind this, a history of the love of nature, of celebrating nature, and we, 20th century people, are destroying the world. This changing climate, killing trees, animals, and sea life, and inviting disease to feed on human life itself. Where is our globe heading? Where are we going? And where will we end? I myself come from a country whose people suffered and are still suffering from wars and atrocities. And as if that's not enough, woodcutters are destroying our mountains, deforesting our mountains, and settlers desertifying our lands with concrete massive structures, and hunters killing birds and animals for the pleasure of it, just for the pleasure of it. The crucial question is, perhaps, what can we poets do? Can our poems change the world? Personally, I know it is a very complicated task, but I still think we should continue with our holy, peaceful war against the carnage. Because after all, we are defending our own mother, that is Mother Nature. So no matter what happens, we will keep rhyming nature, singing for her at the top of our voices, and call on all poets of the world to join in the melody. Thank you, Sina, for this great event. Thank you, Sachi, for your learned speech, stimulating words and ideas from which we can learn. And I can't forget your lovely poems that I heard when we were in Dubai last year in January. And I'm looking forward to be inspired by the poems recited by the participants this afternoon. Finally, I will just read, I just prepared one short poem, a Palestinian ballad. The cypress trees still stand there, a row of weaponless Syrian sentries that never ever took notice of me. But where is the dog that barked at shadows and moving wheels and passers-by, but with an eager grin and floppy ears and wagging tail, he greeted me. And where is the old house from whose wide windows some big brown tassels waved at me? And where are the dreamy chestnut eyes that, like two candles, winked at me? They've all been chased away by cannons that came from this to this land from the sea. Thank you all. It is a great honor to be with you. I'm greatly humbled by this and looking forward to hearing some lovely poems this evening. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Nizar Satavi, sir, has penned about 25 books. He has participated in many international poetry festivals. His poetry and translations have been anthologized and published in many literary journals, magazines, literary websites in different parts of the world. He has received many awards like Naji Naman Award for Creativity and Jerusalem Intellectuals Forum Honorary Award. We are very happy to present your poems, to join with you, sir. Thank you so much. Now, I would like to call Chandrakanta ma'am, Deputy Director, Sitter, to deliver felicitation.
Thank you, Asina. Good evening, everyone. Most respected chief guest of today, Shri K. Sachidanandan. Guest of honor, Mahalingeshwar. I guess we haven't yet heard him. The poet from Palestine, Nisar Sakavi. The coordinator of this program, Sina. Principal of this Polytechnic, Pradeep. All those exceptional poets who are here online. Other participants, hopefully there are also students listening to this program. Dr. Sajeev, who set the right tone to this program in the evening. A very special good evening. It is evening in India. I guess the time zones are different. Whatever it is, greetings to all of you. First of all, I would like to congratulate Government Polytechnic College, Perindalmanna, with its dynamic principal and very charming and dynamic coordinator of this program, as well as coordinator of most other programs, Sina, for having brought together poets of this stature, cutting across borders, age, gender, and bringing them together on an online platform, considering the fact that this is being put together by a technical institution where we bring out engineers, where we teach engineers, and we ourselves are engineers having very little to do with poetry. So for such an institution to bring people like you across, it is even an honor to just see you, listening to you as I listen to the poetry from Sachidanand sir as well as Nisar sir. I was just thinking how ignorant we are, and just glad Pradeep is with me, hopefully being as ignorant about each of these things that you're speaking like others. As engineers, about the particular theme that we are speaking about today, environmental sustainability, global warming, and how we can take care of our nature, we tend to look at this only as introducing new curricular papers. This time we have introduced new programs. In fact, we've introduced a diploma program entirely on renewable energy. We teach sustaining the environment through our various elective papers. we speak about sustainability and designs in sustainability, but that is mainly because as engineers we believe that we are the ones who are the people who are finding solutions to problems. But these poets today in the evening are telling us that it is not our role as finding solutions to the problems, but the fact that each and every one of us should remember that we are the ones behind these problems. We are the ones who are causing these problems. And therefore, it is our bounden duty to ensure that we prevent, fend off, avert all those problems that we create in the first place, and then try to find solutions. And then we forget that we are the ones who actually cause those problems and take pride in the fact that we've actually found solution to those problems. That is what this collection of extraordinary poets are telling us, that we are the ones who are creating these problems, and therefore rather than finding solutions to those problems, let us care, nurture, and ensure that these problems are avoided. As far as education department is concerned, we are mostly engineers who think only of engineering skills. There are a few exceptions. One exception who is also participating in this program today, Shajil Andru, principal at Government Polytechnic College, Artingel, is a poet and a writer, and I'm glad he's there to at least redeem some bit of pride, telling you all that there is a bit of poetry in all of us. As far as we are concerned, we only see poetry in design, poetry in a beautiful building, poetry in the design of an automobile, but nothing beyond that. And therefore, extremely honored to be part of this program. I'm extremely thankful to Government Polytechnic College, Perindalmanna. They are organizing this program from the platform of a national digital library. Never ever has a polytechnic in Kerala used the National Digital Library Club for bringing across poets of such international repute. Once again, thanking each and every one of you for giving us this honor of being part of this polytechnic system and spending some time with us. And again, congratulating this polytechnic for doing such a beautiful program. I wish this program all the very best and success. Thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much. I think Mahalingeshwar sir is now with us. Sir, am I audible to you? Sir?
Hello?
Okay. Okay, sir.
I'm here.
Okay. Now I would like to invite SP Mahalingeshwar, Secretary, Regional Secretary, Faculty Academy. He is an honorary fellow, folklore linguistic, folklorist, a postgraduate in English and Kannada literatures, worked as research scholar in Institute of Asian Studies, Madras. Presently, he is working as the regional secretary. Over to you, sir.
Okay. Yes, friends, I am very glad to hear all of you because since apare kavya samsare kavireva prajapatihi, so all the poets are like kings and more than our legislatures. The poets of our whole world are representatives of our great tradition as well as our little tradition also. The Marga and Desi, without enriching such Pratibha and Utpatti, no poet can proclaim himself as a contemporary in the language and expression. Vagartavyo samprutau vagarta pratipataye. That's also told. And then Vyasa, Valmiki, everybody, our poets inheriting in tradition through these great poets of India as well as world. Also, likewise, our Tagore, G. Shankar Kurup, Vallathol, Kuvempu, Vishwanath Satyanarayana, and all our doyens, including our Sachida, Nachi Master, is and our modern galaxy of poets who are inspiring our poets of today. Today's poets will be tomorrow's visionaries, as I feel, and also come social activists or contributing to different walks of life. In society, poets are more than any legislatures, as I told in the very outset. Recently, one MLA from Manjeshwar was quoting the poem of our Dr. late Siddhalingaya in the Kerala Assembly. Likewise, 14th century Kumaravyasa has been, Mahakavi Kumaravyasa in Kannada, has been discussed recently by the Chief Minister of Karnataka as well as opposition leader of Karnataka Assembly with their poetry. So poets are really our treasures of India, and all the 24 Indian languages. We are in the Sahitya Academy seeing such great visionaries of tomorrow from today's poets. As and with all these words, I am really felicitate all the poets, because there are poets from India as well as poetry is a great poet from Israel and other countries here, because recently I was inaugurating a poets meet of Kavya Kaumudi from Hyderabad. There also I seen wonderful poets from different Indian languages. So I once again, because our Sachida is great inspiration to all the poets, like our Kannada poet Kuvempu, who was a great visionary and modern poet of Kannada, who undoubtedly one of the major writers of our world. His novels also so epic natured, and in their vision, proportion, and dimension. He is Ramayana Darshanam also, which bagged Sahitya Academy Award and Jnanpith, which was a visionary his representation of a visionary poet. And our Sachida got the first national award established in the name of Kuvempu, which is again our very pride matter for us. So such visionaries and genius poets are here. I personally felicitate all the poets and my pranams to every poet here. And I hope they will be tomorrow's great poets of our India. With these words, I conclude my words. Thank you, all the poets, actually, now organizers of this poetry, Tina Olsen and others. Uh, Once again, I thank everybody. Namaskaram, Sachida sir.
Thank you, sir. Now I would like to invite Shajil Andrew, Principal of Government Polytechnic Attingen. He is a poet and an editor. Welcome to you, sir.
Thank you, and a very good evening from Kerala to all the dignitaries, poets from all over the world. Poet, critic, and editor, Mr. Sachidanandan sir, guest of honor, Mr. S.P. Mahalingeshwar, Palestinian poet Nisar Sattavi, Srina Srivalsan, the coordinator, Pradeep, the principal of Pendalmanna, Dr. T.V. Sajeev, Deputy Director Sitter, Mrs. Chandraganda Madam, Vinod, my dear colleagues, my dear students, and other dignitaries and well-wishers for the part of this wonderful event. First of all, A big salute to Team Pendalmana for arranging this program. Polytechnic and literature, or engineering and literature, the two combination, most often taken by surprise by everyone. If you have noticed, during the last 2 years, the concept of education has had a complete phase shift. Colleges have now become laboratories in this ultra dynamic community. And in such laboratories, we conduct experiments. Experiments to create new workplaces, new jobs, new livelihood necessary for the common people or the general public, keeping in mind that we need a environmental friendly, and keeping in mind we have to uphold the human values. And if you closely observe, the polytechnic sector in Kerala is the initiator and change maker in our society, who is capable of bringing about rapid change in the socio-economic fabric of Kerala. I would prefer to call Polytechnic as an intellectual scientific space, capable of having a decisive impact on Kerala's leap forward. The training and study required to make such an impact on livelihoods are taking place in this area. But there has never been a world or a country or a state in this world without unemployment. But we people at Polytechnic are confident enough to put forward the idea of an unemployed Kerala. The world without unemployment may seem to all like a dream. It is here I would like to draw your attention towards a great man, Leonardo Da Vinci. Obviously, when we hear that name, the painting Mona Lisa will be coming in front of our eyes. He lived in Italy from 1452 to 1519. And he was not only a painter, he was not only an artist, he was also an active as a draftsman, engineer, scientist, sculptor, architect. He is not a college-made engineer, not a polytechnic-made engineer. He becomes famous for his notebooks, in which he included drawings and notes on variety of subjects, including anatomy, astronomy, botany, cartography, painting, etc., etc. He drew pictures of flying machines, armored war vehicles, concentrated solar energy, and a special type of assembly machine. Only a handful of designs were made or put into use during his lifetime. Many inventions later led to the rise of technology. But it's very sad that many scripts and sketches have been lost. But his life teaches us that technology and art are not two different things. What his life teaches us is only a good artist can be a good engineer. Only a good engineer can be a good artist. This is a message for my colleagues, my students in Polytechnic. If you want to be a good engineer, you should have a mindset of a good artist. Only a good artist can turn into a good engineer, and a good engineer can make into a artist. And that is the only reason why I said colleges and schools are really laboratories. There is an element of creativity inherent in schools. So that's the reason why we are here with the Poetry Fest also. Creativity leads to poetry, fiction, painting, and other forms of art. And these creative part ignite the engineering creativity also, which lead to remodeling of the society. Unknowingly or unexpectedly, during the recent times, poetry has now become the subject of expression in Polytechnic. We have among the staff, among the students who write poetry, love literature, love, etc. And the reason behind the rhyming nature is certainly our core ideals we represent, nature and human values in our institutions. In Polytechnic, we uphold these two factors, and among the along with the culture of the Polytechnic. Consideration for the nature, upholding the human values in our societies. I conclude in two small points. Obviously, the virus, the eye-opener. After virus COVID-19, we are speaking more about the nature. And second is the solution which I see for the present crisis. I will go with the first point. It's a very small point. Nature's cue. Lockdown is a reminder. Reminder about your closed heart, about your blindness towards me, about your reluctance of my breath falling upon you, about your deafness of my chance of love for you, about your rejection of my fragrance of love, about your non-attendance of my tastiest feast. Yes, lockdown is a reminder. Nature's cue. So lockdown reminds us closed heart. We are having closed eyes towards nature. So what's the solution? The next poem is titled Love, Love, Love. A new day, full of hope, full of sun. Empty heart I found. A new day, full of hope, full of sun. Clean, empty heart I found. Fill it with love, fill it with love. It is not a miracle, it is just a boon by the end of the day. Fill it with love, fill it with love. Miracle, boon by the end of the day. And man got to escort, not to detain. God and man got to escort, full of heart. Let me empty. It is not a miracle. It is just a boon. Heart.
Hello?
Looks
Hello?
like we lost him.
I think
By the end
he
of the day, God and man. Hello? Love and love. With this, I wish all greetings to all the poets, international poets here. We are more caring about our nature. We are more caring about the future. So I think literators, artists, engineers have common thing to do for this nature and for the future. Thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you, sir. Inaugural session came to an end. I would like to invite Vinod K, our office senior.
Good evening, everybody. This is a wonderful and pleasure moment to all nation, not only nation but in the world. Are ready to participate their poems. International Poet Festival, which was inaugurated by Sachidananda, organized this festival. This is the first one. Poets of various countries as well as poets of our nation also participated in this occasion. This festival introduces nation as well as the world to protest. Festival shows good attitude contributes nation or world. Sachidananda sir points that difficulties through natural calamities as well as natural difficulties, etc. This is, he also points this connected with the poems, with nation, natural with poets. These writers, poetries, all are atmospheric, good health, good wealth. He points all these things about this. This rhyming nature, protect nature is the slogan of this festival. One Penindra Banna attributes to all. I enter my duty as vote of thanks to all. Than the sir. Who is the famous poet? We say that, proud to say that Sachidananda sir is our poet, but he is in the world poet. The Keralite says Sachidananda sir is our. I Sachidananda sir to who inaugurate this international festival. TV Sajeev, scientist, Kerala Forest Research Department, message of the event has given. I thanks to Mr. Dr. TV Sajeev, who had participated this and gives message to environment. Thanks to him. Lingeshwar Sahitya Academy guest who had attended the guest of honor. Our grateful thanks to Sri Lingeshwar sir. Palestine poet Nisar Saratavi speech about us. Our grateful thanks to Nisar Saratavi. Director says Sitter Chandrakanta Madam attended this function and addresses to us for about Polytechnic such a program. Engineers is engineering views, not in cultural view. This participants, he points this program's attributes and well wishes. I grateful thanks to Srimati Chandrakanta Madam, Deputy Director of Sitter. Shajil Andru sir, who had Principal of Government Polytechnic College, Attingen, to Shajil Andru sir. Formal thanks to our principal, who is the also organizer of this program. Our thanks to Pradeep sir. Moreover, coordinator as well as all institutes programs are organized by her. This here attempts makes a valuable, a very lot of appreciation from others to this institution. To she welcome speech by Zina Madam. Our grateful thanks to Zina Madam. All of you thanks. We all are waiting for another listening poets program. Thanks to all.
With this, our inaugural session came to an end. Now we have a poetry session. We will begin with